Your hand, I'll get you a mic. We'll start with Rick in the back.
Thank you. Hey, Tony.
Hey.
Going back to last Saturday, what was it that caused that situation with Frank to escalate, and what was it that they told you when you came out on the field?
Sure. Well, Frank stood up in the middle of the inning. I wasn't sure what was going on. I was actually talking to the guys to the right of me about one of their pesky hitters, leadoff guy. Jarvis, pretty dang good, and he was standing up. I believe we had it accurate that they were relaying pitches, which there's nothing in the rule book that says it's illegal to do that. I mean, it's up to us, and Frank admitted the same thing, to make sure, you're not tipping signs or the, catcher's hands out to where people can see that. So he was just defending his pitcher. And then in a weird combination of things, it spirals into a deal where we've got Doe down on the ground in a lot of pain. So that's where he was coming from, and he was letting off some steam, and that was my initial argument was, this is an emotional moment, and, Coach Bohannon, who, like I said, we know well, is well off in the distance. So that's kind of how that whole deal started. And then I think you asked what I was told on the field was, like I said, he's not allowed to threaten another coach, the way that he was. And again, so my defense and Frank, which I'm always going to defend Frank, or at the moment too, I was out on the field to do what I can for Doe, which is not a lot. That's secondary to Woody. And then also my wheels are already spinning. Unfortunately, you got to have a little bit of a cold heart in that situation. Who's our next pitcher? But I'll always, defend Frank in that situation. Again, my defense for him was he was blowing off some steam in an emotional situation. He's got to call pitches. You don't want the other team to know what's coming. And then also you never want to see one of your kids hurt. And you don't want to see anyone on the other team get hurt too, for that matter.
Ben, and then Ryan, and then Joseph.
Tony, just the last 2 Fridays, what have you seen from Chase Burns that have led to his struggles, and is there any concern about maybe the velo being down?
Well, fortunately, Chase Burns' struggles are Chase Burns' struggles, not a normal human, if that's the right way to say it. And I think that's got some sarcasm to it, but also some sincerity. I think velo, as you get into the season, is maybe going to dip for some guys. Other guys that maybe are a little fresher might spike. Weather might affect that, but that part's not really a concern. I think most coaches would agree the ball kind of does what you tell it to do. And if your mind is conflicted, you're not going to throw your best stuff. And I think that's where he was at last week. I don't mean to speak for him, but I think I've got a good handle on it, especially now that time has passed and you do a little research and whatnot. The bottom line is after, we had a really good road trip, he comes back home and probably like some of our team thinks he's invincible. And that ain't ever going to be the case. You can be Michael Jordan and you're not invincible. And all of a sudden it's not a good outing, and Missouri's taking good swings, as they've done against a lot of teams. They're a hot starting team, it seems to be, in the first couple innings, and it bothered them. And to me, whether it be our team or Chase, when things don't go the way you want to, and coaching staff too, as the Rolling Stones said, you're not going to always get what you want. And it's not necessarily a bad thing that that's the case. It can be a good thing, because now you learn some things about yourself and you go through some challenges. Last year, it's not like we didn't have challenges, but we had a very blessed season, and we went up against a team late in the year that was 500 throughout the year, and maybe they had a little bit of edge on us, that they had to go through all these different trials and tribulations and things like that to get to that moment, and we did not. And that doesn't mean we couldn't have beat them, but maybe that's an advantage that we're building into a guy like Chase Burns in his freshman year that's been, it's been a great one to this point, it's fair to say. And same thing, our season has been successful, but you need to know you can bleed every now and then. It's a healthy thing.
We'll go Ryan, Joseph, Mike, and then Karthik.
I guess these next 2 will probably look different, but what does a game day look like for you all suspended?
Well, you cannot go in the stadium, so we've got a routine we'll do Friday, which I'll be able to participate in, which is nice. Our coaches' meetings about the games are usually pretty short, to be honest with you, but they've lengthened. I don't know if they're listening to me, but that allows me to get off my chest, my contribution, what I feel has gone into the deal. And I'll probably see the guys on the way to the game, but then that'll be it. And I don't know that I'll do it, but I would like to hear the park. But if you do that, then it's going to be mistimed, if you're somewhere on campus, which I think their field is off campus, so that won't really work either. So, you do the watch ESPN and you're a minute behind, and that'll drive you crazy. But we've gotten to this point. The penalty is what it is, and probably deserving, and so knock those 2 games out, and I cannot look forward to Sunday any more than I normally do, which Sunday is a big day as is. But one of my buddies has a sign that Saturday or Sunday is for the boys. It's in his little man cave. I forget what it is, or it's for the guys or whatever. And Friday's for the guys. I don't mean to diminish Coach Sully's, on his way to being a legend down there. Frank is super smart. Josh, I'm not diminishing what those guys do, but Friday is for Andrew Benintendi and AJ Puck and guys like that. So the guys will have it out on Friday and do their thing, and we'll see what happens Saturday, but I'll be seeing it from a TV.
How have you watched the last 2 games
on the laptop, but when it's a home game, I get hooked up with our technology guys and can get a live feed. So at least you feel, I don't know, I guess you feel like you're in a VIP seat where you're getting a live feed. But again, we go over all that stuff in the game ahead of time, and it's nice to have a plan, but 80% of the time, plan A ain't going to work. And being in the live game is so different. So the one good thing that's come out of this is a lot of kudos and respect have been created to Coach Elander, because you have to act quick on your feet. You don't get to watch it on TV with your feet up, relaxed. The game speeds up on you as a coach in every sport. And obviously those guys have handled things well, because not only have we won, but we've been able to involve a lot of players, which I always love. And then we've played well too, not just won.
Going into Gainesville to face Florida, it came out yesterday that their Friday night guy, Hunter Barco, is not going to pitch due to some elbow discomfort. Just what is the scouting report and how the rotation might go, and how are you guys going to handle kind of the change of who they're going to throw? Right.
We need to hire you on staff, because I didn't know that till this morning for sure. There's no confirmation from them that they would just slide guys up. Obviously, Sprode is also a Team USA guy like Barco was. I mean, those were 2 of the better guys on Team USA, which is the pinnacle of amateur baseball. So it's not like they don't have another Friday guy ready to go. I just don't know if they're willing to slide him up or not. And then, of course, Neely's done well for him, so he's going to start too. But where they place that third person and who it is really tough to predict. They don't have kind of a setup where I could make an educated guess. So, kind of like I have to do, you relax and wait for your task. And, until that moment, we don't have control over it. But they're going to be good arms because they're coached by him. And then also, University of Florida has turned out a ton of draft picks on the mound and just in general, too.
How pleased were you with the way that Josh just seamlessly kind of slid into the head coach role last weekend, and the way that other guys stepped in and filled more roles as well?
Right. Well, I mean, there's certain things you shouldn't make light of, but I was kind of saying, Jess, it's not his first time doing it, and it's not a surprise. So he was a catcher that would call a game. He runs certain part of practice, so it's no big deal. It's not a surprise. It's not uncomfortable to have him in charge of certain things. What it is finally a chance for Vol Nation, which is obviously incredibly strong, to recognize what else we got. Because anytime something is going well on the football field or any other arena, it's not going to just be Coach Heupel. It's going to be some guys doing some things too that maybe isn't getting flashed up on the big screen, or the fans don't give enough credit to for whatever reason until they know. And now they know. Here's the guy that's beating up the road in the phones for us recruiting, but also he's controlling a lot of the game. And I think if I got to hand the baton off to somebody, I know it's him. So obviously Frank's capable too, but Frank's likes being in his world, and that's the pitching world, and I don't know that anybody's better.
We'll go Karthik, Dan, John, Wes.
Hey, Coach, a few questions for you. First, just how tough has it been, not being able to be at the games? Your first suspension was 2018, right?
Yeah, and that was a completely different set of circumstances, and just an incredibly stressful year where it boiled over in several instances, which isn't a good thing. I mean, you've got to be able to control those things. But fortunately, we've moved on from that year, and we've made progress in some areas. But full disclosure, if that happens in a game, there's a ton of adrenaline, and it's not as bad. The second game is awful. And then, you know, the way we played, it kind of got to be a nice thing. Tuesday was miserable. I think if miserable goes further down the line than awful. So, and I'm not looking for sympathy. Again, you sit and it's an automatic penalty. So that's what it is, and that's what, you know, is deserved and what I need to do. But it ain't fun. It's so different. And you'd like to give input too, like, man, if I was in the dugout, I would do this. But again, you're delayed anyway, and it goes to show you it is a challenge to sit in the dugout and act quick on your feet. And our guys have done well, so I've been pleased with that part. But one of our guys gets out, and I'm yelling and all that stuff. And so it's a challenge for sure.
Second question for you. Are you and Frank, you know, texting each other through the game on what you're seeing, since you both are kind of in the same situation, not being able to be at the park?
I did once, but he didn't want to. I don't know what he does. I know he said his feet hurt because I don't know where he went to walk on Saturday. But I tried to touch base with him on Saturday about, are you watching? What do you think's going to happen, or something like that? And he never responded. We did talk on the phone immediately after the game, trying to see what we were going to kind of round up the wagons and do. But it's too hard for him, so he kind of completely removes himself away from the whole deal. And
one more for you.
Yeah.
Just in 2018, you had the lemonade stand. Yesterday, we saw you doing the chest bumps for $2 for Wounded Warrior. When did you come up with the idea? You know,
Yeah, I did not. About 3 weeks ago, if my timeline's accurate, I was asked by the fraternity to join in what campus had a lot of events going on. They wanted me to be a part of the dunking booth. So I agreed to it. I just said, remind me, otherwise I'll forget. Well, people think I've been on like spring break or something. This has actually been more work, but if anything, I have caught up on emails, so I was on top of it. I said, hey, I'm watching our game. It's chilly out tonight. I ain't getting in that water tomorrow, but I'll throw or do whatever you want me to do. And, you know, the leader of that deal came up with his idea that he wanted to do, which, you know, in no means is disrespect, and it was a different kind of contact. I would never condone the contact that I made on the field, but, you know, it was for a good cause. Hard to argue with that anytime. And people were asking me how to donate and things like that. It wasn't my deal. I did donate, but you can donate every day to Wounded Warriors. And actually, Luke Hochaver runs a ton of different events with them, who obviously was a legendary pitcher here and now works with our guys on Sunday as a chaplain. So that is one of many good causes that any day you want to do something, you can. It doesn't have to be tied into what we've got going on. But a cool day on campus, and I'm glad to be at a school where the fraternities and the baseball team get along, even though we hit foul balls into their area and all that stuff. And hopefully people don't take me too serious at times, you know, or you can separate. I wouldn't actually do this, but if I was going to do a dunking booth that had anything to do with this, it'd kind of be fun to do one in Florida, dress up in all the orange and let their fraternities and sororities have out. But that might turn into a bloodbath. You know, so that will not be done. But one of the things that makes this league the best amateur league in the world is the fans are so intense about it. So I'm sure Alabama fans like Tennessee fans less after last weekend, and maybe vice versa. But it's all passion, which is what we try and induce out of our guys on the field. And again, it's what makes it great.
All right, guys, we'll do a few more. Please keep it to one question so we can get through everybody. So go Dan, John, Wes, and then Tim in the back, and then we'll finish off.
Did you have any consideration for Coach Anderson to be the acting or interim head coach instead of Coach Elander, or do you think it's just a good opportunity for Coach Elander? And when it comes to the umpires, you have a situation with one that ejected you in the Alabama game last year in the World Series. Do you think they should be more transparent, more accountable, and maybe discuss what kind of led to certain situations?
Right. So that's just Josh's role. I mean, he's the one coach that's on the field. And again, I think for any coach, I wanted to coach the pitchers here, to be honest with you. I had been coaching hitters. I wanted to get back to my roots. I loved doing it. But it doesn't make sense with all the other duties I have. I mean, Frank is working with one of our pitchers right now. So he's got his hands full with what I think is the most important part of the game, and it just kind of makes sense. But also, it's Josh's future down the road is to be I even joked the other day. I mean, he's already a better head coach than I am. But then I teased him for one of the mistakes. It was behind his back, of course, but teased him about something totally irrelevant to baseball. So it's the right move. And then I know I'm very close friends. Well, I'm close friends with who's in charge of the umpires with the SEC. He's a great dude. I'm sure he was a great umpire at the time too, but he's in charge of a lot of things. I don't know how much control over he has what you're asking about. But I ask him questions all the time. He's quick to reply. He's a pretty smart guy. He knows what he's doing. So our confidence is in, how they run things. Obviously, as you mentioned, the quirky set of circumstances or a little bit of history there. But that day started out, I saw that whole crew earlier today, and I couldn't have been more relaxed in that game. But a crazy set of circumstances that weren't handled well led to all that. And the rest of that crew, de-escalation's a big deal. They did a phenomenal job, and they did a phenomenal job the rest of the weekend too. Data, unfortunately, is it data or data, is a big part of what goes on now. Those next two games, those scores were off the charts, and the rest of the game was handled well.
I realize the focus is on the start of the second half of the SEC schedule. You've got Zach Lingenfelter, who's going to pitch at Smoky Stadium, I think, later this week. Chad Dallas was just named Pitcher of the Week with his Vancouver Canadians, and Max Ferguson off to an awesome start. I think on base 18 times in 6 games. I'm just wondering if you get much of a chance just to check in on some of the guys that are at that next level.
Yeah, Liam Spence had a birthday recently too, and a very cheap Amazon gift for Liam. But I got one for Max too. You can't say hi or give a gift to one without doing the other of those two. And then the Chad Dallas love affair has already begun. It's switched from our love for him to now the Blue Jays are in love with him. It's going to be that way his whole life, whoever he's around. And Lingo's doing great, but we knew that because he was training his butt off here. The really fun one was Sean Hunley's quick move up, and he said, "Hey, I'm pitching against the Smokies," and I was like, "Heck, I got a lot of work to do, but I ain't missing that." Well, he didn't pitch here, so look forward to his opportunity to pitch here, and hopefully we're around town. And he faced Zach Daniels, which I love you, Zach. I don't want anyone to research how the at-bat went, but it's pretty cool to see those guys doing well. But when they intersect or get to see one another, that makes it even more fun. And then the best part of it all is they're following our guys very closely, and pretty cool deal.
Tony, when you look at the numbers with Gilbert, I know maybe except for the home run numbers, everything else looks like it's gone up, and there's been so many innings where it's offense or defense. Anything y'all do, he's kind of one of the guys. If he does anything quietly, he's doing something quietly to help that along. Just as a baseball player, every day, what does he offer this team?
Well, I think he does what he did last year, and that's jump on a grenade, so to speak, of being in that cleanup spot. The reality is these are just kids, even though they're playing pro-level baseball, and we're traveling like a pro team today. We're playing in front of crowds that are bigger, but they are young and they're kids. So I'm in the 3-hole, or he moved me today, or I'm coming off the bench. They can really overthink those things. And with Drew, you're not going to ever get overthink. You're only going to get overcompete, which it's hard to hate on that, even though you got to control it sometimes. So being that man in the middle has been huge, and he has made himself an absolute elite defender in center field. Again, I'm watching it on TV, so I got to see the replay. The catch he made in the outfield towards the end of the game last night, he made it look routine. That is not, we need someone who can make that play next year. Let's put it that way. And then the environment, he affects it greatly. And one thing he needs to know too, and I've told him this, is if for some reason there's a moment like he had in freshman year where he's over intense or he gets wrapped up in his own emotions too much, it's got a ripple effect across the dugout, unlike most of our other players. Chad Dallas, again, I was joking, but it's true. If Chad is around, there's a ripple effect and it changes the whole environment. And Drew almost kind of has that like a dial on your radio where he can affect that. And as he's gotten older, he almost only affects it in a positive way. So I hope it's 10 out of 10 positive way the rest of the year.
Tim, last question.
Jordan and Evan told us on Monday that the celebration after Saturday night's game was the best they've ever experienced. Can you give us some of the stuff that went down after the game?
I think there was just a lot of emotion there, and it's a great question, and I respect that. but that was kind of one of those things that's for the guys. You know, and I think the bottom line is they have really good leadership. There's a couple other small things that have. I'm looking forward to a weekend, and maybe me being out of it will help. We've had 3 weekends in a row where politics have kind of popped up, and I'm looking for just ball. That's what I like. Competition is my favorite. Baseball is my second favorite, and I'm just looking forward to that. But there's been a bunch of different little situations over the last couple weeks, nothing major you guys are right about, that our guys have beat the coaches to and have handled it incredibly well. And I think that thing that went on Saturday, all that goofy stuff, let's just focus on the fact that arguably our best pitcher is no longer available in a game that you could kind of say we really need to win. There are no must-wins this early in the year, but again, they're young kids. They could think that way, and they couldn't have handled it better. And they had a ton of passion, and maybe it spilled over and they were corrected. And to my knowledge, watching on TV, they did what they were asked to do, and at the end of the day, they got the job done, and so it was celebrated in probably more dramatic fashion than you want to do in the middle of the year, because it's a 3-round bout over the weekends. But a couple guys said they'll never forget that the rest of their life, and anytime a young kid here says that to you, it's pretty cool.